12 minutes this has been running.
Really? Wow.
How are you?
Good.
Yeah.
Good. My busy part's really over. So
Yeah, that's nice.
this week has been good.
What you been up to?
Working out, and my son's going away in a couple days. So
Did you
I'm
get new glasses?
I got a couple pairs now.
Are those new?
They're a year.
No.
Yeah.
Have I seen those?
These are the ones at home.
I haven't seen. Oh, okay. I don't see those
Oh,
normally.
okay.
You look like intelligent.
I'm not.
I seriously haven't seen those ones.
Oh no.
I thought
Are
were
they
new.
that
I like 'em.
different?
They look nice.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like the rim.
Okay.
It's like fucking,
Thanks. Thank you.
you know. Anyways, so you're what
Yeah,
are you doing?
just like working out, eating good, finishing off my week with Charlie.
Last week.
He's taking off in a couple days.
Year
so
4, kid.
I
eh?
can't believe, man, the summer goes by so quick.
Remember when we talked about it at the start? How fast it goes? Isn't it like so true now? Hasn't it all really come full circle? It's crazy.
It's crazy. Makes me sad.
Yeah. What was the highlight of the summer so far? Thus far.
With who?
Whatever. Anything.
Highlights. I don't enjoy my summers.
It's a grind, eh?
It's just hockey.
Mm-hmm.
It's hockey. Remember a couple of years ago, I was just saying that to someone the other day. They said, "How's your summer?" I said, "Oh, just on the ice." Or, "What are you doing?" I'm on the ice. And they were at the rink one day, and because their kid was at the camp, and they the only time they see me is coming. Well, they see me on the ice, come off the ice for a break, and coming on.
Yeah.
And that's what they said. They said, like, "You're actually always on the ice." I said, "Yeah, I told you. That's what I do. In the summertime, I skate." So, as much as I love doing that part, it's a grind,
Yeah, it
right?
is a
Just
grind.
wear you right out.
What a cold rink that is too, eh?
Yeah.
Holy.
Yeah.
Holy is it cold.
Yeah, it's cold. It's a different atmosphere. It's not echoey like here.
Yeah.
So, anyways, no, it's been the highlight of the summer. Did we do anything to say there was a highlight? I don't think I have a highlight yet. What my highlight's going to be, I'm going to drop them off in Guelph, and I'm not watching.
Really?
That's the first time. Like last year, we stayed the first year because he was
Why
young.
aren't you watching?
I'll get to it.
Okay.
The second year we stayed for one day. Last year we stayed for one day. This year we're dropping them off, and we'll see you later. Only because there's not going to be anything like it's not. I don't want to say it's old and boring, but it's training camp, right? And I've been there, done that more or less. And he's an older guy, and I know what he'll be doing. But we'll go watch him in Traverse City. So we're gonna go. So yeah, so like my watching hockey is prolonged. No, we'll get a preseason game in first, the 1 or 2 if he's playing in a preseason game before he goes to Detroit, and then we're gonna go to that, and then should be back in Guelph end of September for home opener, and then get to watch some hockey. That's my highlight. That's my vacations. You know that. That's what I love to do, and then I'm actually very excited about working with the Leamington Flyers again. And the academy. This week is rejuvenating for me because it's just like just having that little, like, the holiday of not being really, really busy for 1 week is really rejuvenating, so I can get my bearings back and know what I'm getting into, and look forward to attacking that actually.
Yeah.
And doing real well with it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Yeah. What's your highlight? You did a highlight this summer?
I don't have one, I don't think.
No.
I'm
you've
still not
been
out of the
grinding
woods.
too. No,
Yeah,
I know.
I'm not out of the woods yet, so maybe after, if I have some time to reflect.
Yeah.
I think looking back on it, that BioSteel camp will have been pretty cool.
I loved it.
Just knowing that I like more or less planned it on my own.
You did it.
I'm
That was yours.
But while I did it, I was not having a good time. But
Yeah.
Looking back on it, it was pretty cool. Like getting
It was great.
a good mix of, all the best guys around, and then some guys from out of town. It all still was guys that were kind of connected to the area more or less. So I look forward to branching it out further and extending the reach a bit. But it was cool, man. Like, just to know you could pull off something like that, where I know, even though there's things that could have been better, like the guys felt a little spoiled. Like, it was that all inclusive, like they had a little resort weekend kind of thing as a hockey player, which the only reason I care about that was because I know I would have loved that. Like, when I played, that would have been the coolest. Like, your food's included, you got all this free stuff, and that's the stuff that makes like this for anyone designing programs or designing, wants to get guys to care about what you're doing. Give them free stuff, man. Like, it doesn't even have to be anything crazy. Like, you give a guy a hat, you give a guy a shirt, you get like that kind of stuff, product, whatever you have available. That's the stuff that makes guys feel important, even if it's something that they pay for. Even if it's a camp they have to pay for, the more inclusive things that you can give them. Like, I remember as a player, that's the stuff that makes things feel good. You know, if their stuff is set up for them, if they have a table with
Yeah,
free
it
tape,
gives it a pro
yeah, free
atmosphere.
tape, like someone that skate sharpener, like that
Yeah,
kind of stuff.
yeah,
So maybe looking
that's
back,
very true.
maybe it'll be that looking back. I think maybe, but for right now, I still got a few weeks here.
Well, you know,
So
it's going to be as we continue doing those, they're going to get better and better
oh
because he's owns BioSteel.
yeah,
He's a phenomenal guy.
yeah.
Yeah,
And he
he's
wants
gonna.
it to be
Yeah,
some of the details like on the behind the scenes stuff would shock some of the people of stuff that guy's doing. So it's it's cool. It's nice to have a team now where it feels like we have some resources, and just like allocating them better is going to be where like I'm going to have to sort some of that stuff out. Um, but it'll get sorted out, and it'll be a pretty tough thing to compete with as like other hockey programs, which is what I'm excited about because we have so many unique elements to it.
yeah. It's that's what I was saying is with the new group of people we have, it's kind of educating our new people in our group, to think differently than anybody's thought. And for me, I've been trying to stay ahead of that stuff for years. But having BioSteel on our side helps me. I'm using me. It's not really me anymore, but it helps me explain the ideas that I wanted to do better with a
Oh yeah,
team.
for sure.
With a team,
Yeah,
and I think we're going to do some great stuff. I really do.
yeah, yeah. It's
Well, I
cool.
don't really do. I know we will. So that's an exciting thing. So because personally, I've had a long year. You too, I know that, but I've had a long year. It's been trying. It's been like a lot of just grinding through stuff and figuring things out, and then but the great thing is that you just keep moving, right? You keep moving and you keep thinking, and things will work out.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah, for
so
sure.
it's all good.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by the PowerTech online membership program. If you've been listening to Andy and I wondering, hey, how are they able to get all this podcast content out there? Well, that's because of our members. For just $9.99 a month, you can get access to our online video library, including hundreds of videos of Coach Andy teaching, and have the option for consultation calls with Andy or myself to go over anything you need. We can cover training, nutrition, coaching, parenting, agents, the junior college hockey path, whatever's of interest to you. You'll also be able to participate in our popular Ask Me Anything episodes, have access to special discount codes, and be given priority for any PowerTech in-person camps or events. If you like what we're doing here and you want to support us, this is the best way to do it. Visit powertechhockey.ca/memberships or find the link in the description of this video to learn more. So I think I wanted to talk a little bit today about, we touched on it a little last week, the question of how important it is to be on a good team. Reason I want to talk about it is because one, it seems like people are interested in it. That's the biggest reason. Because it's almost like one of those the debate thing where you can take a position on either side. That kind of makes sense. But I think it's important to just talk in more detail about what we mean when we're talking about it, and both sides of the argument, because there is both sides. But depending on your individual circumstances, one side of the argument will make more sense than another. So I think maybe to start, the reason why this is an important question for me right now is, like we said last week, a lot of guys are making decisions on where to play, and a lot of them think they have options that are going to end up disappearing because of, here's one example. I got a kid that's at a junior camp, and I was talking the other day, and he's like, "Oh yeah, they just had two other kids come down from a higher up junior team to our team, and now it's making me question, like, am I going to really have an opportunity to play or not?" So things like that over the next couple of weeks are going to start happening, where it's like, oh, I have a really great opportunity with this junior team, for example, but in 7 days, like that can all flip like that, where you think, yeah, I'm in this position, I'm going to be the eighth forward, and then all of a sudden there's four new guys that show up on a Monday, and you're like, oh shit,
Yeah, now
I
you're
didn't
12 or
realize.
13.
Yeah, exactly. And that changes the dynamics of what is good for you.
Well,
So
it's funny you say that, because in junior hockey, that's what I've been saying for a long time, right? So you can think you're going in the best situation ever, and then all of a sudden someone gets fired, new coach, new ownership, whatever, or a trade, or they sign someone from somewhere else, and it's like you just don't know. So in junior hockey, it's a whole different ballgame. That's why everything that you do in youth hockey, not everything you do, but what you do in youth hockey is nothing like junior and pro hockey.
well, so I wanted to start because you've been at with the Flyers having their main camp over the last week or so, or this whole week continuing still. You've been there watching and talking with the ownership, management, coaching staff, whatever, and watching the players. So for a lot of these guys, I mean, the older guys are the older guys. They're going to be around that have been on the team, but maybe framing it again more for those kids that are trying to break in. Like, doesn't even have to be about being on a good team necessarily, but just what are some like thoughts that you see for those kids that are trying to transition into that kind of role as on a high level junior A team or whatever, because that can be really extrapolated to so
Yeah.
many different places, you know?
Yeah. Well, funny because before the camp, because I'm privy to a lot of information, I know the people, and it's like you should hear the conversations that some of the parents and the kids have with the coaches and the management beforehand. It's like they expect this, they expect this, they expect this. Like, I think my kid could do this, and they have no clue. So before they even get to the camp, they're already, as a family, having expectations of what they should, almost like what ice time and what, where they should slot on the team, with zero information on how good the league is, right? So they're thinking like already that they deserve something. Okay. So that's the first thing. And then like that's when you walk into junior hockey and you're really clueless because you have no idea. Your sample size is small. Because now you're not even um competing against, let's just say you're an Ontario boy. It's not just Ontario now. Like you can pull kids from anywhere. So when you see like there's 12 American kids at camp that you'd never heard of that are as good as you probably, or better maybe, or in that same ballpark, it's like, oh, I didn't know they were coming. Like, so basically it's like they don't understand that it's not, there's nothing given to you anymore. The odd kid, there's the odd thing, but it's not given to you. You have to earn and take, right? That's the NHL. If you want a job in the NHL, it's not like you have to take a job from somebody. You don't just get to play. And then if you, and when you're in the NHL, you're trying to keep a job. You're trying to avoid someone taking your job, and that's all it is. It really is. So, having said that, when you go to a camp, what should you be doing? You should be competing. And for me, after the first period of the first session, we went into the room and they asked, "Hey, so Andy, what do you think?" I said, "Well, I'll be straight up." And they go, "Yeah, yeah, of course." I said, "Well, I don't know who's trying out. I can't tell who's trying out, who's trying to make a team, or who's coming for a skate." And they said, "Yeah, that's so." Dale, coach, goes, I agree 100%. I said, like, for me, if I'm actually trying to make this team, my compete level, and I'm not even talking about hitting, I'm just talking compete level. Like, what is it that you do that, like, do what you do. So like if you believe that you can score goals or you're an offensive player, that puck better be on your stick and you better be going hard. Like showing some little bugs, showing some confidence in that. At least like saying, okay, that's the thing that he's here for, and we can see it, right? But for me, it was a compete. I'm like, now the older guys that are on the team and stuff, like, yeah, I understand. Like, you're on the team, you're already signed, you've been there for 2-3 years. It's different. You don't need necessarily have to go run a 17-year-old or a 16-year-old, but and you understand the process of it. So you got a lot more of a leash. But it's the guys that are trying to get a spot or on the bubble. It's like, what are you doing? So at the end of the 2 days, there was one guy that stood out to me. And if you would have asked anyone before that, in fact, one parent made a comment that, like, kid can't play. Well, he can play junior because he was the only one out there. Hey, Charlie, he had about 10 hits in yesterday's game. Big. Is he skilled? No. Like, no. In fact, he skated with me a couple of weeks ago, and he is raw, raw, raw. And if you would have asked me on that ice time if he could play junior at any level, I'd say not yet. Not even. No, he's big though, like 6'4", probably at 16. And I would have said not a chance. But in the game, he went out there and competed, and for 2 days, he was probably the best on the ice at least one day, and very recognizable the second. So like, then the question was, should he play? And I'm like, okay, well, here's the thing, right? Why do we follow this guy? Because he's been hyped that he's really good. He can do this. He didn't do anything. He didn't come to compete. This guy did, and with some work, His skating will get a little bit better if, because I can tell he's a kid that will work on it, but he's going to compete and he's going to play hard. So like he's a one guy. Well, maybe there was two guys that I said that kid should make this team this year. Everybody else was like a bucket of vanilla. Just kind of showed up, and that's my thing with when I always talk about the skill development side of stuff and too much ice, too much playing on a good team, all these different things. That's my argument because that kid that stuck out like a sore thumb yesterday, that was hitting and got some points and was driving the net, played on a terrible midget team, but he's good. So you didn't have to play on a good team to be good at a different level. Whereas there was a lot of guys, and this could be an argument. There's a lot of guys that were on a really high end team that just didn't go hunt pucks and track hard. This guy backchecked hard. This guy did all the little things that makes you a junior player, where the other guys just didn't. Now that's the question. When you play on a good team, maybe it's coaching, maybe it's not. But if you play on a good team, are you in the position now to let someone else do that work? Or if you're the star and you're the big goal scorer or whatever it is, and you don't have to do all the hard stuff and you score goals, well, it doesn't really translate. Some guys it does, but it doesn't translate into the next level. So that's, for me, that's what the camp was. And I not argued, but I said to the guys, I said, like, to find that guy that stuck out like a sore thumb, that finished hits and stuff like that, it's what everybody wants. And I said, you have 40 guys here, 50 guys here, and I said, there's one. And I said, you have to look long and hard for that kid to get him somewhere else. I said, so I would hang on to this kid as long as you can.
Yeah. Well,
Period.
it's funny because of like the judgment on what's good from, let's say, less trained eyes is often they default to the skill stuff to make a judgment, you know? So there's another guy I'm thinking of too that on the ice, same thing, like not skilled, like no skill. But what the reason people say this kid could be good is because he's a rough and tough. So he's not the guy that you expect to QB the power play. He's not the guy that's going to be your tape to tape sauce over 4 sticks every time. Like that's not the guy. He does something else. And for this kid, it's like same kind of thing. He's going to do a different job. But if you're, again, this is where parents, they can mistake the importance of being skilled, you know, and there has to be a baseline of skill. Like it's not that you can have zero. Like you have to be able to skate and shoot and handle a puck to a degree. But once you hit that baseline, there's guys that are far above that baseline and there are guys that aren't far above that baseline, but they have a different tool set. They have different things that they're strong at. And that's something that people need to understand, especially going into a junior camp. I just remember the mentality of always being the guy that is going to get points or something. And there's just so many other things that you can do to stand out.
Yep. Well, one guy got ran yesterday. It was a bad hit from behind. And that's what Charlie said after. He goes, it was on Charlie's team, so he couldn't really do anything. And he wouldn't because it's not his team. He was just there to be a shiny toy or whatever. But this kid got ran, and it was like, and the kid didn't, I'm sure he didn't do it to be an asshole, but he just, for whatever reason, he went and ran this guy from behind. And nobody did one thing. But that's your chance. So my side tangent to that is like, it's always like, okay, we could talk about this stuff till we're blue in the face, but where I always like to make sure is if we can give advice to parents, even though most of them will never take this advice, is as you're raising your kid through the game. And I would say this would be the same as if you want your son to own a business or anything else, is to teach them the grind work, the hard stuff, right? To do the hard stuff. And what does that mean? Like, so when you're raising your kid, it's like, I wouldn't praise goals. Like it's just goals are goals. I wouldn't, what I'm saying is praise the things that lead to success, right? The habits. So like when you see your son back checking or forechecking or going to the net or making nice passes and being unselfish, sticking up for teams, blocking a shot, getting pucks out, like the little things, if you can praise that more and reward or praise, I don't know which one I'm trying to say, but just don't do it always to the, like, you go skating through or getting a goal that you think is sick, but actually is you're not playing against the best goalie or whatever. So like praise the effort, and then I think, and then teach them right? Teach them to compete. And it takes you don't do it in one dinner, right? You do it over time, right? You just teach them to show up and give them put a sense of pride in um, um, of being hard to play against, or effort, and if they have that effort and a belief system, because you can see a lot of kids go to these camps, and rightly so, they're nervous. Was I nervous my first OHL camp? 100%. If you walk into your first junior camp or you go to a new team, are you going to be a little bit nervous? Yes, but you have to go there with confidence that no matter how nervous, how big, now how old, whatever, there's something I could do to be very good, or believe in yourself to do what you do well. And I find kids may be even tentative with that. And is that the kids or is that the parents? I think it's a combination, but that's where a parent could be really good, is building a belief system in their kids. And if you reward kids on just on goals and the skill stuff, and having a good skills practice, and that's your measuring tool, then when the kid doesn't score or whatever, then he didn't have a good game, right? Whereas if he back checked hard and he forechecked hard and went to the net and had little things, um, like effort stuff, and you reward that, then he could always go. You could that is always his fallback on recognizing whether he played well or not. So that's just my thoughts on that, and I think parents can play a big role in that.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
So I'm gonna keep kind of circling on this being on a good team thing. So even sticking on you being at the camp, trying to think of how to frame my question. So let's say the guys are coming from all different teams, so they've all played different places, whatever. How how much of a factor is that in going into how the coaching staff or the scouting staff, whoever is evaluating for the team, is looking at the player that is at the camp now? So is it, for example, take the highlight AAA team with the Marlies or something. Let's say there's a kid from the Marlies there or something equivalent. The fact that that kid played on the Marlies, is that garnering that kid more attention in the eyes of the guys that are evaluating? Are they giving them, are they more of a shiny toy because they're coming from that team or coming from that area or whatever? Or does it, once camp starts, is it kind of a wash now? Now
Yeah,
it's just
people,
pure.
you just want people to argue with us.
Yeah, I know,
No, no. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Like, to answer the
because people
question
think
first.
this, right?
Yeah, to answer the question first. Okay, if you play for the Marlies, Honey Baked, Chicago Mission, JRC, whatever in Canada, the equivalents of those big teams, I'm not going to sit here and say that it's not good for you, because you're going to be playing with good hockey players, right? Like, I'm not saying you can't be a good hockey player somewhere else. What I'm saying is, in those centers, you're able to recruit very, very good hockey players, the top hockey players, kind of, okay, that fit into that level. So you'll look at the Toronto Marlies or the JRC or whatever, Mississauga Rebels or whatever they are, and you will see in the first 3 rounds, you might see 20 guys go in the top 60 picks. That's really good. That's really good hockey, right? And so for the purposes of getting drafted, and or getting recruited maybe to college or junior or whatever, that is a very attractive thing. It is. You play for the Marlies, and if you're on the second line, first line, or whatever, you're playing with good players. So, even if I could hide some of my deficiencies, even sometimes, like if I'm playing with you and you're willing to get the corner and go hunt pucks and make a play, and I got a good shot, and I'm in the slot or in the areas where I can shoot and they go in, I look good, you look good, whatever. So now it's recognizing what actually equates to being a junior hockey player. So there's value in playing on a good team. There definitely is. You will get, and there's the negative, because if you don't stand out, then
Yeah. Oh, I'm going to do that
yeah.
contrast.
But
So
there
I'll
is
get to it.
definitely good qualities for playing on an excellent team. And the other qualities are, you get to play and move pucks and see how good players think, maybe, or and you get to feel what it's like to execute some pretty sick stuff and win. Like, all that kind of stuff it's a good thing. But once you get to that junior camp, I won't lie. Not that I would lie about it, but I want to be. How do I say this? Being totally transparent, there's probably your hype train coming into, let's say you got drafted to the OHL or a junior team, you were a first round pick, second round pick, right? The little bit of hype is going to give you a little bit of room. Okay, so that's true. So if you are on a good team and you get drafted at a high and high what if you get drafted as a high prospect, like a first, second rounder, then there is leash. But that leash only lasts for so long because what you're looking for is the best hockey player. So yes, does the guy from Sarnia have to maybe do a little bit more for a little longer to take that spot? Yeah, sometimes. Yeah. But at the end of the day, the round you were drafted doesn't mean a thing. It does and it doesn't. You get the leash, but then you have to you keep that spot, right?
So it would be fair to kind of say it this way. So even to take out the top picks, like take them out of it. So let's say we have a fourth round pick from the Mississauga Rebels or whatever. Are they still the Rebels? Senators? Either or.
There's Senators,
Either or.
Rebels, something else.
The Rebels were the top dogs when I played. That's why I said that. Sean Monahan, oh, so good. So let's say someone from that team, fourth round pick. Then you got a seventh round pick from the Sun County Panthers. And like 4th to 7th round, like let's just say for argument's sake, they're pretty close, right? Let's say they're pretty, just for my example, let's say they're pretty close. So do you get a little bit, are you starting off on a little bit better footing coming to, let's say, the whatever Wellington Dukes, just random team, if you're at that camp, do you come in on a little bit better footing being from the Mississauga Rebels as opposed to being from the Sun County Panthers? Meaning there's a little bit more you have to do as the Sun County kid to get on the equal playing field. Like, is it that you're not starting on the same playing field to a degree?
I can't speak for everybody, but for me, no.
Yeah,
like for me, no.
For me, no. But I feel like there is some.
Listen, people. It's so funny, man. People get fooled by that shit.
Right.
People get fooled by that shit, and there are times, many times, where you do get the benefit of the doubt because of the hype train from previous. That's just the bottom line. These guys, I mean, we were just talking about it the other day. There's a kid that's supposed to be wow, and I was like, after 2 days, I go, "What's wow about this? I don't understand." And then we had one person sticking up, no, but. I go, no, there's no but. There's no but. That kid's outplaying him. That kid's outplaying him. That kid's outplaying him, and that's not hard to do right now. He's shown nothing, but you get that person that will stick up for him for long enough to maybe he gets that early draft pick. Maybe he gets to stick around for a while. Maybe he gets even a year or two to because they think that it's going to happen eventually, and it never does until that 7th round guy beats him out just because he's just better, man. He's just better, right? So
yeah. So if let's say just because there's both sides of the thing. So let's say for someone like you and I, because I wouldn't care. Like if I looked at my roster, like for any junior camp, they have the kid's name, the position, height, weight, team they played for last year. The team they played for last year for me, like I don't care. Doesn't matter. Once the puck drops at camp, I don't care. So that would be you and I. Let's say for somebody else, it does matter. Let's say they favor, well, this kid came from the better league, whatever reason they want to cite that this matters. I think it's probably fair to say in most cases across the board that leash runs out pretty quick, even just in the time that you're at camp. So let's say day 1, that matters. Day 2, it matters less. Day 3, it matters less. If someone's training camp, let's say most of them are maybe a week long before they start making most of their cuts. Within the week, I would say for me, pretty fair to say across the board, it'll run out, even if you're a person that would value that more over someone like you and I. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, and it's fair, but like all I would say is the argument would be, okay, so if you're, this is the way I really would say it. There's certain teams, I'm not going to say in the OHL, but you could tell if you go look through the rosters and you see 1st round picks and 2nd round picks that were drafted. So you're talking kids that were taken in the top 40. Okay. So these kids were typically from those teams, right? From the higher end teams, typically, but usually on a better teams, or they were really outstanding on a shitty team. But anyways, you take the first 2 rounds, so 40 kids. And if you look at the team's rosters and you look at the first 2 rounds and see how many kids have stayed on that team that they were drafted for more than a year or two, it's surprisingly small. And why is that? Because the hype train runs out, or they were really good, and they were able to trade this guy for 4 or 5 guys. But if you look, and I'm not going to go through this because I would never embarrass kids or organizations, but you would look and you go, that was a first round pick, really?
Oh yeah,
That was a
that
second
happens a
round
lot.
pick,
Yeah,
and they get traded, and someone else could be, well, there's potential there because he was a first round pick. He's like, the leash is long, but then eventually it's like, well, you're just this player, man, and it is what you are. This guy that was taken in the 4th round, 7th round, whatever round, free agent, is just a better hockey player.
yeah,
And you're more value to my team.
yeah, for
So
sure.
it has to run out at some point. Like,
Yeah,
you can't fool people forever.
and I think just I want people like to hammer the point, just like so people know. I think it's a shorter leash than you think. Like it starts to come out in the wash pretty quick. You know, so if you're the most extreme example would be the first, second round picks, like in Ontario for the OHL. Like they probably get the longest. For everyone else, it's like pretty pretty quick to run out. You know, you got guys like even I remember even with Charlie's age group, like you got guys that were drafted pretty high, not outside the first 2 rounds, but pretty high. It's like they you don't even see them. I don't know where they are, right? Or they've been traded 3 times, or they don't play in the OHL anymore, or they don't, right? So as soon as you get outside that first two, let's say, where they have a little bit longer, I think everyone else, like for the rest of the draft, like it's pretty interchangeable after that initial phase of that hype of they were drafted higher, they're a
Yeah.
higher prospect or
Well,
whatever.
like,
You know?
just say, Charlie, if we were to take just your opinion as a hockey player, do you feel like it matters at all where you were drafted? The first year you get the leash. After that, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, yeah. That is the most extreme case, even, right? Where
Yeah.
you're talking about
Yeah.
top end OHL picks,
Yeah.
right? It only gets less important
Yeah. And
beyond
what'll
that.
happen with first, second round, like first year players, is understanding, like, okay, and this actually makes sense. Just because you're there as, let's say, a first or second rounder on a OHL team doesn't mean that you are the best player for that position. You could go to different organizations, maybe in junior B, junior tier 2, obviously other teams, and probably plug in a 19-year-old that is a better player right now. So the mentality, which is fine, is this person is going to be a really good player in this league. He just needs time to develop here for 1 year. That's why you only get, your fourth line 3 minutes a period or 2 minutes a period, just to get your habits up there. And then the ones that deserve to be in the league, they catch on very quickly, right? But if you were to say, like some of the guys on the Flyers, if you were to say there's no chance they could be a fourth line player on a bad OHL team, you're wrong. You're wrong. There's a couple that could, not many, a couple that could be a fourth line player, right? So yeah, the leash. There's a leash, but your time does run out.
Yeah. So I think maybe to finish, like, why are there so many bugs? I don't know. I think last thing maybe to finish, maybe just to show the contrast, um, because we got a little off, but I think it's good because it's all in the same kind of boat. So if we're talking again being on a good team, I want to just let's talk about the pros. Like go through the pros of being on a good team. One, go just like a little more detail. We'll go through the cons of being on a good team, and then I want to talk about who would be better suited for which situation. Does that make sense? Okay, so pros of being on a good team, in your opinion.
Well,
Start with that.
you learn how to win. Like, there is something to be said about winning. You get to, if you're on the Marlies or on these big teams or on a top alliance. People don't know what alliance is, but if you're on, like, outside of Toronto or outside of the big programs, and you have a really good competitive team and you get to the semifinals and tournaments and finals and tournaments, you learn how to win. You expect to win. You learn how to play tired. You learn how to, your expectations of winning are it's just, that's what you expect. It's like a guy in business, right? A guy that believes that he's just going to start a company and it'll succeed and have the balls to go knock on this door, talk to this person. That guy that believes that usually can get it done. Whereas if you are very tentative of doing that, then your rate of success, or your expect whatever that word is, of success is a lot less. You probably won't succeed, or you don't believe it when it happens. So that's, to me, that's number one. You learn how to win. That's great. You play with good players. So like if you are a good player and you move to the next level, you are used to maybe reading a guy that is very intelligent and just kind of reading and feeding off of them, and you're making offensive plays, or running a power play that's actually a power play that would work at another level, different things like that. So the systems itself, or the way you execute a game at a high level fast, um, is not going to surprise you, or you're just used to that stepping up to the next level. I think for me, that it gives you some confidence. Sometimes, a lot of times, false confidence, but it gives you some confidence. So that's what I would say for me. The two big things would be.
And what about from like a development perspective in terms of skills
Well,
and
you're
that stuff?
practicing at a good pace, but I don't know if I'm going to agree with that. I would say that you're practicing at a good pace. I think you're doing things at a good pace, but are you? Like, are you? That's my question. It's um, are you competing really? I don't know. Like, I don't know. I mean, it won't hurt you to have a good hard practice, but if you're playing against inferior competition all the time, are you really playing? Are you really
Yeah, true.
competing? Are you really competing? Are you just?
That's the Mike Tyson argument
Well,
there,
it is, man.
right?
It's 100%. It is.
Yeah.
Are you just a better athlete?
So then if we flip to the cons then.
And last thing on playing
Yeah.
on a good team, there's more pressure. There's pressure to
Yeah,
win.
true.
Pressure to win is, I think harder to deal with, or more learned behavior than the pressure of always losing.
Yeah. Okay, so then cons.
Cons on playing on a good team. That's maybe my longest list in the whole world.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I'm being honest. The cons are, like, first of all, um, okay, the cons is that
Biggest one for me, just before you go, because I don't
sure,
want to forget it, is you don't learn how to lose a lot of times. You're playing on the super team because I mean you had this when you were coaching your super teams. It's like you lose one game or you have a bad period and everyone is like freaking out. Like you get the bad attitudes now, the bad body language, the sucky baby shit. It's like you don't learn how to deal with losing in a
yeah,
productive way. That's
yeah,
probably the biggest one that I notice
yeah,
from guys like
yeah,
that.
yeah. For me, like, playing on a super team is, or on a high end team is, for me, number one is that you don't uh, you're not really competing. You're not. You're competing maybe in a tournament. You're competing at the semifinals and finals. Yeah. So the first four games don't actually count. If you go to the state, like, so if it was playing for Bell Tire or Little Caesars or something, you're playing at the state championship. The only games that actually are competition are your last, like, the semifinals, finals. You're winning the state. Someone from the Detroit area is winning the state, right? So it's not real competition every night. It's so you have to find that competition within yourself. The other con is that when you do lose, it's like um, it's almost like, I don't want to say it like that, but like you make more excuses than you make. You know what I mean? Like, the ref screwed us, this kind of stuff, rather than
What did you do?
we
Yeah.
didn't compete hard enough.
Yeah.
I find that you don't have to compete. You don't have to compete, right? It's like the Mike Tyson thing. It's like, if I'm outskilling you, if I'm just a better boxer than you, and I'm bigger, stronger, and just better, like, the fight's not real till I meet my match. Then it's going to find out if you're actually a
Yeah.
fighter,
Yeah.
right?
It's not to all things
Yeah,
are equal.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
like, that's the thing, is like when you play against. Well, I remember when I was coaching the Bell Tire team, we were so good, and Tom Fergus was coaching the junior Canadians, so he was an NHL player, and we spanked them shorthanded. We're basically five. We were playing three guys against five for basically two periods, and we ended up winning 4-0, like, shorthanded goals, and we were just better. The second game we played against, it was a little bit tighter, but we still beat them pretty handily. But you could see that they weren't gonna quit. They're Toronto Junior Canadians. We played them four times that year. They beat us the last time, and they came close to tying us, or they tied us. So we almost had an even series. And it was like, those guys worked, and they had a coach that, they weren't as good as us, but he said, we're going to shut them down. My guys didn't like it. That's all I can say. Like, they were way better. There was no excuse for this, but my guys didn't like the
They didn't
compete.
like the battle. Yeah.
And most times they did, but, like, we had a pretty good group. But this was a gritty Toronto Junior Canadian team, and they outgritted our team. They just had more will, and that's, you beat a super team. It's because You know, our guys wanted to move the puck and have room and skate, and of course you do. But then when you get a team that just is in your face, a 1-3-1 or a 1-4, and then
Pain
you
in the
can't
ass.
move, and they're
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
hacking and whacking, and you're taking penalties. That was the game plan. So that's what you should be in every night if you're in a real competitive group. Anyways, you don't lose. You get your ass wiped for you from the time you're 10 to the time you're 16. Everyone walks around, and it's a con. It's not good. People are telling you how great you are. You walk around with false pride that you think you're just better than anybody. You haven't really competed. You don't learn to play with a player that's going to put a skate in your boots instead of on the tape. You're playing with guys that are highly skilled, so that's not good. That's actually not good all the
Yeah, you've
time.
never had to take a bad pass. You've never had to do
That's
a
what I
lot of this
mean.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
And are you getting coaching? Are you? Like you might have the greatest coach in the world to work with that talent, but you might have just the talent to beat everybody. So there's so many things um, on playing on a really good team that are negative, and there's some things that are good. But I just think that you have the added that you come from a place where um, you're told how great you are, and then you haven't really seen the competition yet. And then you meet your match when you get, and some of them are perfect for the next levels, but you see a lot of them that are not.
So my last thing then, this gets right to the crux of the matter. Everyone asks, or everyone brings up, again, we talked about it a bit last week, of like, I need to play on a good team so I get exposure, so I get this, that, the other thing. They want to, most people, I would say, generally speaking, would probably land on the side that playing on a better team is better. So, and I'm not saying it's not, I'm saying it depends. So for you, what type of person, what type of player would be better suited for each circumstance, or could it be good for any player either way? So if I'm the um try to find me an example of where it would be better for a kid to play on a bad team and be a top player, or where it would be better for a player to play on a good team as a good player. So let's say we got a good player either way. Which type of personality, like what type of kid?
Okay,
Yeah,
my
go.
honest answer is doesn't matter. It's
Mhm.
too bad for you. Like this is just being 100% honest. If you're fortunate enough to always win your games and play on a good team, and you're a good player and you go first overall in the OHL and get drafted in the NHL first round and have a 20-year career, then awesome, awesome. You didn't have to have necessarily the same adversity as someone else. If you're stuck in like, okay, so I'll just use my example. We live in Windsor, um, and I was not interested in moving my kid anywhere. He and my son played on some shitty teams. And you know what? Good. I actually wanted him to play on shitty teams. Actually. And so if you're good on a shitty team, don't cry. Don't cry. I want you to have a shitty team. I want you to have shitty coaches. I want you to have shitty line mates. I want you to have shitty arenas. I want you to have shitty jerseys. I want you to have shitty everything. I actually wanted that. And he had that several times. And then they became a good team through some good coaching and a couple players coming to the team. They became a very good team. But I'll tell you what, when he was losing every day, he had to learn how to be a competitor. He did. He had to learn how to be a competitor, and he had to learn how to take the guy that was playing beside him, or maybe he was even the guy that they had to carry a little bit. Not really, but he had to take a guy. Well, no, but he wasn't the best of the world. He wasn't,
Yeah.
but he found a way to impact the game.
Yeah, you're shit.
Yeah. No, but he had to find a way to make the team good and dig deep, right? And dig deep and make the team better.
Yeah.
So there was games where they would really fight really hard and they would lose 3-2, 4-3. Maybe the goalie sucked, whatever. He had to fight through that. But I'll tell you what, once they had a team together and they had that work ethic together, the kids that grew up in it, and they had that work ethic, and then you add one here, one here, all of a sudden they start winning games and they're loving it and they're embracing it and they're cherishing it. We're winning, we're good, and there was like they enjoyed it. They enjoyed winning and they loved it. Smiles on their faces, but they worked their ass off when they were losing. So I love the fact that my kid had to go through that, and it's just so good for you.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay, so
because when you get to listen, so my other point of that is that when you get to the next level, it doesn't matter what you like or what's good for you or what not. You are having to deal with what you have to deal with. So if you get drafted, I've said this before, if you're drafted as a first round pick, like an early first round pick to a shitty team, there's a good chance that that shitty team is not going to win the Memorial Cup this year.
Yeah.
It's either going to probably be in a little bit of
Yeah, you're
in
gonna
the
be on a
mud.
shitty team. Yeah,
You're going to be in the mud again.
Yeah.
So if you've never played with a shitty player, never lost, then good luck to you this year. You're going to have a shit attitude. Your agent's gonna call the GM 40 times a year and say this is
because
bullshit.
you're supposed to be the guy that changes it.
Right.
Yeah.
If you've had all the ice time on the best team, right? If you're all the ice time, now you go to a team that's you get drafted to the London Knights and you're fourth line and you're not getting the ice. Like, how do you respond to that? You've never happened to you before. So you need all the experiences in life. So I don't care what you think is good for your kid and what's bad for your kid. The only environment that I wouldn't want my kid in is one that's just a bad environment, one where a coach is an idiot or is like abusive in some way or stuff like that. But I don't care, man. I want them to play for shitty coaches so they can figure things out themselves.
Yeah.
Think for yourselves.
Right. Okay. So is there? Because I want to try to force you to answer the question. So, because a lot of people aren't going to listen anyways. So, a lot of people want to move their kid somewhere. So let's say you're debating, and you said, "Yeah, that's fine, Andy. I don't believe you though. I want to still move my kid." Are there things that you could see in your kid that would help for you to better judge whether it would be a good move to go to a super team or not? So, example, I have a kid, he plays here in Windsor. Our team sucks, our coach sucks, everything sucks. He's one of the best players. I have an opportunity where I can move him to Toronto and he can play for the Marlies, as an example. Like this happens, right? So, if I'm going to make this decision, because people are going to do it anyways, are there things that I could see in my kid from a personality perspective or from a playing perspective or from a character perspective that would indicate to me as a parent that this would be good or bad just based on that particular individual? Like, are there flags? Are there red flags? Are there all the things you just said already considered? Like, are there things that would indicate to you, like, I don't know if my kid would handle that well. I don't know if.
Yeah, like I know what you're saying. So like if the kid is a self-motivated kid and he's played on a and he actually is really really good and they just can't win a game and you feel like and he really just does want to win. He's done everything he can for his team. Like let's just say he did, like whatever that means, and the opportunity comes and there's a situation where maybe you can live with family or a really good situation and you can get to the games and and you know that maybe I wouldn't even do this myself, but and just everything lined up, and my son was strong enough mentally, like we had a good relationship, and I know that he is not a shithead away from the ice, and like he can handle stuff. He's good with people. I'm sure, and then I'm talking Ontario. Sometimes you live in places where that just you have to, but uh, but I would still say no. I would still say no because for me it would be such a short term thinking. Like so, if you got drafted in the first round instead of the third, at the end of the day, in a year, it doesn't make a difference. So I'm just not I don't buy it. Now, if you're in a situation where your kid was under the microscope so much, maybe here in Windsor, and like Aaron Ekblad, like he didn't move, so I can't even go there. I can't even go there, man. You can't even go there. You're not that good. Like if you're that good, you're going to be that good. So it doesn't matter. That's my freaking point. You know, and if you have to play on, I think the problem is if you have to play on a team of better players to get your stock to go up, then it's you, not you're the problem. You're the problem. Like if you're a 10th overall pick or a 40th overall pick, that's what you are roughly, and it's not anybody else's problem or fault. Like people will see what they see, and if they don't see it short term, they're going to see it long term. Like you're going to get your like. I think the problem with that moving at before it's necessary, just my thoughts. The problem with moving before it's necessary is that it's just such short term thinking. It's to get drafted or to get looked at early, but 16 is not when you're a hockey player, anyways. Like in my opinion.
Yeah. Cool, man. Interesting.
That's just my thoughts.
No, and it's an interesting conversation.
Like I'm not going to go there. Like I know you're trying to get me to like maybe there's a reason for someone to do it, and I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying there might be a reason that makes sense. Like maybe you're in a place where let's just say okay, your coach is your agent, your coach, your agent, your skills guy, this, that, and the other thing. He controls your life. then maybe it's time to get out, right? Like if you can't, because we live in a situation like in this area where you live in boundaries, and that stuff kind of stuff happens. So if you get out of that situation, maybe, maybe, but you could just move across the pond. So, sorry, but maybe something like that. But I think any other circumstance, I don't understand the reason why you have to move away from home at 15 years old.
Yeah, no,
Um,
it's an interesting conversation. I want people to just it's so hard to get good information to people, man. It's really hard. Like I think we're doing it with the podcast, but I have conversation with these parents every day, and it's like it's just really, yeah, it's just really hard for the message to be received. It's really hard to get people to grasp things before they've seen it with their own eyes. It's really hard to get people to shake them out of what they find comfortable, all of those things. And you can say the same thing as many times as you want. It's just people a lot of times have to see it and feel it for themselves before they buy into what you're saying. And it happens. It happens in time, anyways. But if we can help, people to make some of these decisions a little bit easier, then that's kind of the goal, because there's just so much nonsense that I have to I constantly am listening to. You
yeah,
know what I
dude,
mean?
I got to just qualify this, right? I know that, like for example, I'm going to have someone on the podcast in a couple weeks. Lives out west. His son goes to an academy out west, and it actually makes sense there at 15 or whatever age it is, or the Bantam draft out there. It makes more sense because the academies out there, like they're all over the place and they're run very well. But British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, they're not the center of concentration of population is not as dense as it is here. So for someone to play in Windsor, Sarnia, London, Chatham, Kitchener, uh, Burlington, Hamilton, Cambridge, Toronto, Oshawa, like that's all within 2 hours, 3 hours. It's not hard. So you're going to have like a decent level of competition, right? Whereas if you live in, you know, Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, or the Paw, Saskatchewan, or that might even be Manitoba, I forget. But if you live in one of those places, like your nearest center might be
Even
six.
dude, go to the BCHL.
That's
It's
what I
like they
mean.
got some drives, man.
Yeah,
Like,
that's what I mean. So
yeah,
like when people are like, so like I'm talking about our center, and if you can keep your kid at home and play with shitty players or whatever it is what it is. But if there's at some point, if your kid's really good and you live in those type of areas, like sometimes it's just is what it is based on where you live. So, but I would say that if you're doing it to chase something, like the game of hockey is so hard, and that you won't know that your kid's a hockey player till he's
yeah, long
hit the
road, man.
competition,
Yeah,
takes a cage off his face, gets punched in the face, has because what happens is, like, as you know, every time you go up a level, the separation of skill becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. Everybody can skate, basically. Everyone can handle, like everyone's very very good. So it's that's when you're going to find out who the players are with good coaching and stuff. So it's just I don't want my kid to move away at 13 when he can move away when he's going to move away at 16.
yeah,
You know,
yeah, yeah.
and
No,
I
it's
think
interesting.
that's just as important.
I don't want it to be a bigger deal. Like it always sounds from the conversations like people make it a bigger deal where you play and who you play for than it actually is in reality. And that's the thing I want to try to steer people away from, is that in the grand scheme it doesn't actually matter that much.
Well, so
So
my last point to that is this. Actually, is we talk about this all the time in our family. It's like, what do you think this person is thinking now? Kids that he maybe played hockey with, or kids that I trained, all that absolute lost your mind on stuff, like making family decisions on a kid at 15, 14, or 16 that you don't even know yet. Like you're just hoping that it might work out, or like you have no idea. And the investment they put in time and energy and financially, they have to be sitting back going, what were we doing? Like, what did we do this for? What the heck did we do this for? And I even say it sometimes with myself, like not that I was ever in a crazy mode, but like my son's a very good hockey player. So you watch and you talk to people that actually matter, and you get drafted and you play and you kind of go, okay, my son has a chance. Like actually, obviously. So you, as a dad, you don't go like, I don't go crazy with it, but like you want the best for him, right? But like even me, I sit there and I go, I hope I don't look back on this in 2 years and go, what the heck? What was I doing? What was I doing? Like, maybe he doesn't even want it, you know? Because, like, and I say that very sincerely. There could be a day, could be next week, it could be in 10 years or whatever, where he just goes, this is too hard. This is bullshit. I'm done. It could be next week, man, you know? And then we're going to sit there and go, wow, without what I can say about it is that the life experiences, that's not what he's playing hockey for, though, but he's got a lot of transferable skills now. That's what I would say. But anyways, I'm done.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, I have to leave now, but that's a good conversation. So we'll okay, we'll see you all next week.